Hi everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as a huge £60 million bid apparently comes in for Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay. Should Manchester United be taking this bid? Look, I think they have to. I don't think it's a bite your hand off bid. I think it's a fair bid. Some people will say, take it. I'd take a packet of skips. But the reality is, you know, we are a football club and they have a value. And I think that you've got to take this very seriously. We'll talk about that. My indication is I don't think United will take it, but I think they should. So we'll talk about that. It's coming from The Guardian, Jacob Steinberg, you know, reasonable source on this. But we'd also heard from Sky this morning. Sky Sports were saying that West Ham would go back in for Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay as well as Alvarez from Ajax. So we'll be talking about that. There's also talk about Anthony Martial and what's going to happen with him. We've also got the latest on Todibo and Amrabat for you. Pellistri leaving United. What are our thoughts on that? So lots and lots to get into on the show this afternoon. Not this morning. I wasn't here this morning because I was with Ben Foster. You might have seen... I don't think you've seen any content with me and Ben Foster, actually. We filmed it. It's not up yet. Oh, no. We put the video on at lunchtime. Yeah, but I enjoyed that. Make sure you check that out. So smash a like and let's get into it. So first things first, let's just hit this story with where it's coming from. So it's coming from Jacob Steinberg, who is a football reporter for The Guardian. And he basically is saying this: West Ham believe that an offer of £55 to £60 million could convince Manchester United to sell them both Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire. They're trying to find a solution around Harry Maguire's wages. Now, I'm glad it mentions the wages because that to me gives... that to me gives an indication that there is an element of truth to this about what is going on with Manchester United and Harry Maguire. And look, I think there's a lot of... I want to get this right without getting it wrong. If you watched the watch along yesterday, you would have seen Seb, my son on the channel, very sincere about Harry Maguire being his favourite player. It was nice that Harry Maguire got an assist, but he also got one for Bilbao. He's not good enough for Man United anymore. There's nothing wrong with saying that if you believe that, and I do believe that. Sorry, Seb. But the booing, I just think that this is football, and Paul Pogba got booed, Anthony Martial got booed, and as soon as Harry Maguire gets booed, it's like, you know, put it on the front page. And I'm like... Look, I don't agree with the booing. I said I've never agreed with it. It happened in Australia, it happened in America, and it's happened in Dublin. And you get idiots who don't watch the channel and just think it's something that it isn't, that blame it on me. They blame it on the United Stand. Never have we said go and boo a footballer of any club, let alone a Man United player. I don't agree with it. But on the other hand, if somebody wants to do it, they're going to pay the consequences of that. Other people might boo along. Other people might be booing the people who are booing. I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to sit here and try and score points with everybody by saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. You can have an opinion on it. What we're talking about here is a player that needs to leave Manchester United, and I have got no guilt attached to that. I've watched him play for the last 2 years, and he is not good enough to play for Manchester United where we want to be. If we want to be like we were under Solskjaer, Maguire probably gets a start. In fact, he was the captain. But if we want to go to the levels that Man City are at and Arsenal are trying to get to and Ten Hag wants to go to, then this player is not the right player for Manchester United. It isn't. So I think with this offer from West Ham, my feeling is, completely and utterly honestly, my feeling is that Manchester United should be very seriously, not necessarily accepting it straight away, but they should be very, very seriously looking at negotiating this out. They've either got to dismiss it out of hand and say, you know, we don't want this deal. And if you're tuning in a little bit late, this is coming in from The Guardian and Sky that Manchester United will receive offers from West Ham in relation to Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire, and that those offers could end up being around £60 million. So my feeling is that is... I'm not going to use the word fair, and I'm not going to use the words bite their hand off. But what I will say is that I don't think for 1 minute that Manchester United will be able to get £60 million for Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay next year. And we've just had one coming in from the Daily Telegraph now. So the Guardian have reported it, Sky have reported it, and in the last few minutes, it is anticipated that West Ham will make a new offer for Harry Maguire and could bid for Scott McTominay, and that's coming from the Daily Telegraph. So this is well sourced now that that Manchester United are looking at Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire. And to be fair, this has been spoken about for at least a month. So it's it is what it is. It is what it is. There's clearly interest from David Moyes and West Ham for Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire. And I will say this, I think Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire would suit West Ham's perfectly well. West Ham may well have won the Conference League, but they nearly got relegated. Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire, no matter what you think of them, are going to improve West Ham and probably push them more mid-table, which is, probably where they would love to be. And they've got Europa League football. They will improve them. There is no doubt about that. Certainly, I think Maguire will improve them. And I think McTominay playing week in, week out might finally show what level of footballer he is, because he's definitely not a top 4 player. So I think it's a clever move by West Ham. I think it's a reasonable offer. And you're basically, for 60 million, you don't need to get into the detail of what you're offering. Are you offering 35 for Maguire and 25 for McTominay? Is it 30 each? Is it 35 for McTominay and 25 for Maguire? It doesn't really matter. I think £60 million for Maguire and McTominay is good value for everybody. If anything, I think we're missing out on a little bit. I think realistically, Harry Maguire's price should be 35 and Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay should probably be 30. So we should get about 65. But, as I said, Man United need to be really careful with this, and Erik ten Hag needs to be really careful with this. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's a bargain for West Ham, and I'm not going to sit here and say that we need to bite their hand off. I think £60 million for the two, £55 million for the two, whatever, I think we should take it. And I'll tell you why I think we should take it, because Scott McTominay's 27 and Harry Maguire's 30. I don't know whether they're quite that yet, but this season they are. So in a year's time, will Scott McTominay be a first-team player for Man United? No. Will Harry Maguire be a first-team player for Man United? No. Their value will have dropped in 12 months, and another year of their contract will have passed. From a purely business and football sense, we need to cash in on these players, because another year of not playing will decrease their value anyway. Another year of not playing will decrease their value because a year of their contract will have gone. Will you ever get an offer as good as this again? I don't think you will. Are they part of your first team plans? No. I think United have got to do a deal here. I really do. And of course, if you do that deal, it then allows you, as Adam was talking about this morning and Fabrizio was saying, Man United have been asked to be kept informed in relation to Todibo of Marseille, as he is a target for Ten Hag. Amrabat is waiting to come to United. So I think that, look, United will have solutions if they can move these players on. And if we sell Scott McTominay, Fred and Donny and buy Amrabat, we may well buy another midfielder as well. So, look, I think United have got to move everything they can to make this deal happen. Sometimes you want to sell a player and there isn't actually an option to sell a player. We've got two players here that would suit West Ham, and I suppose it's going to come down to two factors. West Ham want them. West Ham are willing to negotiate. Do Man United want to sell, and do those players want to go? And that's the most important thing. Now, I've said why I think Man United should sell. So from a player point of view, do they want to go? Well, Maguire and McTominay are good mates. That's pretty much well known. Welcome to the Members Club, Stitch. He says that's a brilliant deal for United. I think it's a brilliant deal for West Ham. I do. We should 100% take 60 million for Maguire and McTominay, says Attar. And Matt says, hi Mark, I know Maguire isn't good enough, but do you worry about a lack of quality depth at centre-back if he leaves, as Varane is quite injury-prone? No, because we're going by Todibo, Matt. That's what Ten Hag wants. He wants a different profile of defender, so you have to replace. Ray says it's not a good deal. I'd love to know what you think is. I really would. Fid says maybe McTominay may be higher than £30 million, but for the sake of letting Maguire go, we should be willing to accept 50 to 60. I don't understand how people value Scott McTominay at more than 30 million quid. I'd love to know how you work that out. He's 27. In 7 years, I've never seen what his value is. I know he plays for Scotland, but I haven't seen him have a good game for Manchester United in nearly a year. I don't know why people value Scott McTominay at 30 million, but Donny van der Beek is 20. Donny van der Beek's younger than Scott McTominay. I don't get why some people value McTominay at over 30 million quid. I don't get why Man United do. I mean, what has he done in his career at Man United to justify 30 million quid? I think 60 million for the two is good, but it will come down to what the players want to do. And what you've got to remember is that Man United is a nice club to play for. It's very good for your brand. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I suppose the question is, do you want to be a footballer or do you want to play for Man United? Because you're not going to play for Man United, but you can be part of the glamour of Manchester United. Obviously, Scott McTominay's been there since he was a kid as well. So there's a big attraction there. But I think that, when you hit 27 and you're not a first team regular, Phil Neville, Nicky Butt, they all left in their late 20s, didn't they, to go and play first team football? Well, if Phil Neville and Nicky Butt can leave to go to Everton and Newcastle because they want to play football, I think Scott McTominay, who's nowhere near the level they are, should be looking to go and play first team football. I would literally be, Dick Whittington FC if I was Scott McTominay. I'd be getting my stick with my little, the thing on the end where you put your lunch in, and I'd be walking down to London. The prospect of playing every week in the Premier League and playing Europa League football, I would be all over that. Living in London as well, fan base that is very, very, into their football club. I think it's a great move for Scott McTominay. For Harry Maguire, I just think Maguire needs to accept where his career is. I think that Gareth Southgate has caused a problem. In fact, I was saying this to Ben Foster today. He's had the captaincy taken off him. He's clearly fourth choice. The fans want him to go. He's clearly not good enough for Manchester United. And yet he still feels that he doesn't need to leave. And I think if he'd been dropped by England, he would be running after Scott McTominay walking down to London. But because of that England place, I think it messes with Maguire's head. I think he thinks he's better than he is. I think he thinks, I'm England's starting centre-back. I can play for Manchester United. And I blame Southgate. And I don't like Southgate as a coach. I think he's crap. But I do think with Maguire, you've got Ten Hag, who's took the captaincy off him, would rather have Tom Heaton as captain, and has basically dropped him to fourth choice and told him to go. And yet Maguire is still pondering whether he wants to go or not. I'll tell you what, if he wasn't playing for England, he'd be gone. So I think Maguire needs to go and play football. And again, he's not got long left. I don't know which way this is going to go. I think that it's a great move for Maguire and McTominay. I think it's a great move for West Ham. And I think it's the right move for Manchester United. But there's a few components there. Both players have got to want to go. West Ham have got to put the bid in, and Man United have got to be open to accepting it. And I just don't know. And Eric Ten Hag might say, in relation to McTominay, we're a little bit short in the midfield. I'd rather keep him. So we'll have to wait and see. If they give us 60 million for both, it would be 40 for Slabad and 20 for McTominay. Deal of the century, says Kevin. Barmer, welcome, and thank you very much for being a member for 11 months. If we want to make a good season, we need at least one centre-back, two centre midfielders. Otherwise, I see us not finishing in the top four, says Desiree. And Jetpack as welcome to the Members Club as well. So, yes, if you've tuned in, very, very, very strong stories coming out of the UK. And, of course, this is UK-based, so you can trust the UK-based journalists. Telegraph, Guardian, Sky, all talking about West Ham bidding for Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire. Will Man United take the bid? Will the players make the move? I think tick, tick. And I will say this to West Ham fans, because they'll think we're just trying to offload two crap players. No, they're not good enough for Man United. But neither would Mark Noble have been good enough for Manchester United. Antonio is not good enough for Manchester United. Kufal is not good enough for Manchester United. Fabianski is not good enough for Manchester United, but they're good West Ham players. McTominay and Maguire are not good enough for Manchester United, but I'm absolutely convinced they would be major assets for West Ham. I really think they would do well. Maguire would be brilliant for West Ham because they play deeper and he likes that. And McTominay would be brilliant for West Ham because, they need to get stuck in. They need to get physical, and I think that would suit him. Barmer, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. He's gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much. Barmer, you're a legend. Right, should United... I'm going to do a quick poll here. Should United accept 60 mil for M and M is the question. McTominay and Maguire. Should they accept 60 million for those two players? Let us know. Do with a poll. George says Mark hates McTominay because he blocked him. No, I don't hate anybody, and he blocked me after I didn't think he was good enough. So actually, it's the other way around. I already said McTominay wasn't good enough before he blocked me on Twitter. So, and I don't hate people. And if anything, that just shows how narrow-minded and sensitive the modern footballer is. Because at the end of the day, some people will think you're not good enough if you're not good enough. Grow up. If this happens, I'd seriously look at Kudus. Hi, Jack, says Harry. I hope Kudus goes to Brighton. I really do. I really do. Anyway, let's move on. So, in other news, it's been confirmed that Anthony Martial will stay at Manchester United this season. Apparently, he has been training with the first team a lot, but Erik ten Hag is monitoring and protecting the player ahead of the new season. This terrifies me. Jason Wallace says, take the money and run. This terrifies me about Martial, because if we're at a point now where we don't play him in pre-season games because we're protecting him so much, he is done. He is done out here. And this happened at the end of last season. He came back training with the first team in mid-March, and Ten Hag had him training with the first team for about a month before he used him in action, and then he was injured within a month. So I don't, the thing about Martial is Ten Hag is clearly at a point now where he can't actually use him like a proper footballer. He's got to wrap him up and sort of try and gamble with an hour here and an hour there. I mean, there's just literally no future. I mean, I was thinking about this before I went live. The best case scenario with Martial, and he probably won't be happy with it, is that Højlund is the starting striker, and then for the last 20 minutes in the odd game, maybe every game, you just give Martial 20 minutes. But can you really use a player that can't play a couple of games in a week? I just don't know. And obviously, this is a massive reason we can't get rid of him. He's on 200k a week, and he's still got 2 years left on his deal. So Martial is technically a striking option for Man United, but is he really? It's like having a wheelbarrow in your shed with no wheel on it. It's still a wheelbarrow, but is it effective? No. And I think that this is the problem with Martial. I want players that can play. If somebody said to me, Raphael Varane can only play 20% of the season, I'd get rid of him and use Maguire if I couldn't buy somebody else. Like, I want people who can play. It's really important. Ask Seb what he thinks about this Maguire deal, says Kevin. I can't tell him. He's in a good mood. He's playing Mario Kart. He's had a haircut. I'm not telling him. Why upset him? Rudy says, why personal terms haven't been agreed yet? We're hearing prices. What if the players can't agree personal terms and don't want to move? It sounds redundant, says Rudy. And Martial's had his chance. Now he's done, says Times End. Look, I think that with Martial, we might be able to sell Maguire. We might be able to sell Williams. We've sold Alanga. We'll probably sell Donny. We'll probably sell Fred. We might sell McTominay. But with Martial, it always amazed me last season from January. I remember the Manchester Evening News saying it. I remember other outlets saying it. Martial's up for sale in the summer. And I'd say to you, he's not up for sale in the summer. He might technically be open to offers, but United might be crap at transfers, but they're not total crap. And there is just, who's going to come and buy Anthony Martial? Jack and the Beanstalk, sold his cow for some magic beans. Oh, I'll buy Martial. Who's going to buy Anthony Martial? We forget we might be crap at transfers, but not everybody else is. No one's going to buy Anthony Martial. So he was never for sale because no one's going to buy him. I think it's a great deal for all parties in relation to McTominay and Maguire, says Yusuf. Also, what do you think about what Varane said on the load of games players have to play each season? Oh, Yusuf, very, very quickly, I will just mention this. So Varane has basically said there's too many games, that the immense amount of added time we're going to see in the Premier League is ridiculous and will increase injuries for players. I can't remember what else he said, but he's absolutely spot on. No doubt about it. He's absolutely spot on. I think from this weekend, we're going to see what happened in the World Cup. where at the end of the first half, we're going to get 5 minutes, and at the end of the second half, we're going to get 10 minutes. And look, some people really enjoyed it. I remember from the World Cup, some people really enjoyed it. But player welfare, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The risk of a player getting injured in the last 10 minutes of a game is massively higher than it is in the first half or the first hour. So you add another 15, 10 minutes to the end of the game. You're just increasing that. And with somebody like Varane, he's probably one of the best people to come out and talk about it, because we know that he's always, I mean, I think his fitness was good last year, but I think that there's better ways to stop time wasting than making overplayed players play more. We played 3 games a week for most of the season last season, and some of our players went and played a World Cup. And then they played internationals at the end of the season, and then they have 2 weeks off and they're on pre-season, and then you want to add another 20 minutes on to every single game. I mean, you're just going to burn these players out. And Varane is right. And then what happens? The quality of the product dilutes because players are tired or injured. Hi, Mark. Thanks for your hard work. Nothing is better than a Mark Monday. Loving the polls as well. Let's go Man United, says Buster. Thank you very much. And thank you, Yusuf. The boos yesterday for Harry were awful. Hope he goes for his own sake, says Jennifer. And 95% of you would accept 60 million for Maguire and McTominay from West Ham. That's nothing short of a landslide. Karan says, hi, Mark. This is too good to be true. I will only believe it in the day I see them holding their West Ham shirts, says Karan. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens with it. Manchester United, in other news and also in obvious news. I mean, look, forget McTominay and Maguire for a minute. I mean, I'd sell them because they wouldn't be part of my first team plans, and I don't really want to bring them off the bench. If there's 20 minutes to go in a game, I'm bringing Lindelof on, not Maguire. If there's 20 minutes to go on in a game, I'm bringing Amrabat on, not McTominay. So, or Ericsson, or Mount, or Mainu, or whoever's on the bench. So, to me, there's 60 million quid there that we need. We need to sell to buy, and there's 55, 60 million quid there for players that don't have a future. So, I would take this money. Of course, I would take this money. But in relation to the immediate future for United, we can't buy Amrabat or Todibo until we sell some players. That's the situation. Amrabat sat there waiting for Man United, and we need to sell some players. Now, Donny van der Beek is in an advanced talks with Real Sociedad. I think that's why he only played 45 minutes yesterday. Fred, God knows what's going on with Fred. I mean, he's just not played in pre-season at all, and he's actually fit. If you remember correctly, before the US tour, they said that he's not going on the US tour because of a personal issue, but may well join up later. That was 3 weeks ago. Didn't go to Dublin, didn't play at Old Trafford at the weekend. They're trying to, I mean, Fred might be on strike, says Frank. I don't know whether he's on strike, but he definitely needs to be sold. And the sooner we sell these players, the better. Dean Henderson, obviously Forest have just accepted, Arsenal have just accepted a bid for their goalkeeper Turner, which sends him to Forest. Does that close a door on Dean Henderson? Ultimately, the sales process for Manchester United is not great at the moment. So you got West Ham who want to buy McTominay and Maguire. I'm there. If I'm John Murtagh, I'm there to Richard Arnold, and I'm there to Eric Ten Hag saying it doesn't get any better than this. We won't get this next year. We won't get this in January. We need some money. I know we're trying to do deals with Fred, but that's took a month. Dean Henderson, that's took a month. Donny, that's took a month. Brandon Williams, that's not been done yet. Here's an offer for 2 players. I think we need to take it, Eric. And that's what I would be saying. But we need to sell to buy. We need Amrabat. We would like to bring this Todibo in. I would still be looking to bring in a lone striker or something like that. Get the money in. Would you accept a 25 million bid for Martial? And do you think United would accept that, says Nicholas? I would, mate, but can you tell me a club that would give us 25 million for Anthony Martial and then pay him 200 grand a week? Never going to happen. Stu says, scares me what a kid like Pellistri could do at Dortmund or Benfica. Ten Hag should seriously consider him over Ahmad this season, says Stu. And scientists have put a bid in of 35 million for Martial to conduct medical research on his body, says HH. Well, look, going back to Pellistri, obviously Beth and Ryan were at the game yesterday. I don't know where they got it from, but apparently Pellistri is ready to go and leave Man United. He wants to play, and it will be a loan deal. So that's pretty much nailed on that Pellistri will go on loan. There's talk of him going to the Eredivisie. look, I trust Ten Hag on that, but I, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think he's the one winger with Garnacho that has the capability of running at people and putting a cross in. Anthony doesn't do it. Rashford doesn't do it. Ahmad's not been fit enough to do it. Sancho doesn't really do it. I like what Pellistri and Garnacho offer in their directness at times. And I think Pellistri, if he was at Man City, would play a lot more. I think he's exactly the sort of player that Pep Guardiola likes. But I've always said this about Ten Hag. I back Ten Hag. I think he's a fantastic coach. But I just don't think he's really totally all in on Pellistri. There was plenty of opportunity to play him last season and he was picking other people ahead of him. And I think he's had a good pre-season, but there's still no prospect of him really staying and being part of the first team setup. So I think Pellistri's clearly going to leave on loan, and that is a shame, really, because I think he could have a good season. On the other hand, if you balance it, he's got Sancho, Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, Ahmad. He's got 5 wingers, really. And who knows what might happen with Mount or Bruno. So he has got a lot of options, and maybe the most logical option is to say to Pellistri, look, I probably could use you, but I'd like you to be on my bench this year. I'd like you to be getting 20 minutes, half an hour, but I can't put you on the bench because I don't want more than, I mean, really, I can only have 2 wingers on the bench. If I'm starting Rashford and Anthony, it's going to be Garnacho and Sancho. So I can't guarantee you bench time, whereas if you go on loan, you will be starting games. So I can understand the loan deal, but I think, again, it's probably because we're a bit stacked with players that we could probably do with shifting. If we can get rid of Donny van der Beek, Fred, Scott, Maguire and Henderson and get in Todibo and Amrabat as well as the ones already in, it's a very productive window, says Sir Ben. Well, that's the options, isn't it? I think we could have done it quicker, but you're right. There's still good options there. Thanks for your hard work. Nothing is better than I've done that one from Buster. And must just find a way for Garnacho to get into the team. He scares defences with his pace and cleverness. Anthony's a one-trick pony, and whilst he has pace, he's too predictable with the ball. United could finish second, says Nasha. I mean, look, it's for another show. Maybe we can talk about it on the 8 o'clock show. But my feeling is that Garnacho is a starter. And whether he starts against Wolves, I don't think it's going to be long. I think Garnacho will be a first-team player for Man United way before Christmas. And what I mean, a starter. You know, I think he will be considered as a first-teamer. That's what my feeling is, because I think the trajectory and the consistency and what he offers, you could argue that he offers more than Anthony at the moment, and Anthony's a first-teamer. So I don't think we're going to be very long before Garnacho is in that position. But it probably will be advisable for Pellistri to leave, really, I think. Just a bit of an update on the goalkeeper situation as well. I think this was from the Manchester Evening News. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was. Suzuki rejected Manchester United, according to their report. United put an offer in, he rejected it to go and play in Belgium. I presume he will be a first-team goalkeeper there. And, I sort of get it. I don't think we're being rejected because he thinks a Belgian club is better than Manchester United. I think this is a career path move. You come to Man United as backup to Onana, that's probably your next 3 or 4 years, and you won't be first-team football. You go to Belgium and play first-team football there, you put yourself into the European spotlight, you probably end up as Brighton's next goalkeeper or, maybe even Chelsea's or something like that. In 2 years' time, he could be a first-team goalkeeper at a really decent Premier League club, whereas if he comes to Man United as Onana's understudy, he's only ever going to be Onana's understudy, isn't he? So I can sort of see why he's done it. He's backing himself to actually be better than a reserve goalkeeper for Man United, so keep your eye on him. I'd get rid of Sancho before Pellistri, to be honest, says Omri. Yeah, but even if you would do that, and even if I agreed with you with that, who's going to buy Jadon Sancho? He's on 300k a week and cost us 75 million quid. So, yeah, we can't do that. And it goes on to say that Ten Hag has spoken to Tom Heaton and told him that he's staying at Manchester United and he wants him. So I think, in effect, the reserve goalkeeper signing is not going to happen. I think that, obviously, Onana is head and shoulders the number 1. And I think Tom Heaton will be the number 2 this season. Which means it's still a solution to solve. But better to make the right decision over the next 12 months than to rush into the wrong decision in the next few weeks. So, look, I think Suzuki was the guy they were going to go for. They liked that Bart Verbruggen, who's now going to be Brighton's first choice goalkeeper. So you can, I think Ten Hag's done the right thing. I think he's looked at a couple of goalkeepers that, as reserve goalkeepers, would have been very, very high quality, but they both obviously want to play first team football. So United have missed out, and I think Tom Heaton for the next 12 months will do, and we will have to just get them scouts out there and look for somebody else, maybe in January, maybe next summer. But we've got Onana. That's the main thing. And somebody said, well, what about Dean Henderson? I'd start Garner, Rashi, Garnacho, Rashi and Højlund, says Silai. I mean, look, Dean Henderson's an irrelevance. He, by his own admission, would not want to stay at this football club. He would definitely not want to be a reserve goalkeeper. I don't think the fans want Dean Henderson to stay or be a reserve goalkeeper. So there will have to be a solution with Dean Henderson, whether it's a loan or a sale. They will have to find a solution. Anthony presents a similar issue to Ten Hag as to Maguire and Sancho did to Ollie. They are the manager's transfers and they have to play regardless of form, says Chris. I think that's a great point by Chris. I really, really do. I mean, look, this is how long Maguire has been a topic of conversation, because I remember when Solskjaer was here, people were saying Maguire's not good enough and he shouldn't play. And I used to sit here and say, but this is an £80 million signing by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If it costs him his job, he will stick with Maguire. And ultimately, it probably did when you think about that Leicester loss, where Maguire had been injured for a few weeks. He had one training session on the Friday and he threw him into the game on the Saturday and we got stuffed. So ultimately, it probably didn't help Solskjaer keep his job. But Solskjaer spent 80 million quid on Harry Maguire. He had to fall on that sword one way or another. He had to be right or wrong. And ultimately, he lost his job. I think this happens with lots of managers. Look, Darwin Núñez at Liverpool. Klopp will stick with him because he spent loads of money on him and it's his player. I've seen this happen countless times with managers. You have to, you almost sack yourself by sticking by these players that you spent a lot of money on, or it turns right in the end. Anthony is not going to get dropped for Jadon Sancho. I've heard people say that, but he won't, because Ten Hag won't look at it and go. And Mourinho was a lot worse with this. Like, Mourinho literally would get rid of players because the previous manager bought them, whether he liked them or not. But Ten Hag is going to stick with Anthony over Sancho because Anthony's his guy. He knows him, he spent the money on him, and things would have to go really badly wrong with Anthony to find himself on the bench. This is Ten Hag's guy. And I think Anthony will have a good season. I mean, I'm a big fan of him, and I think he will have a good season. Amrabat, Todibo, Goretzka, and Felix on loan would be a good transfer window. I mean, Dizzery, if we could turn that around in the last few weeks of the window, it'd be bloody brilliant. United pulled the trigger too quick. Garnacho and Pellistri over Sancho and Anthony for me. More direct and saves us millions to put into other positions like a striker and a centre-back, says Danny. And I will fly from South Africa and drive them there myself, says Desmond, in relation to McTominay and Harry Maguire. Well, look, let's see what happens. I think that hopefully Manchester United can negotiate a deal. It would be great to see that. And let's see what the next few hours and days bring. But ultimately, there is a willingness from West Ham to bid for those players. Is there a willingness from Manchester United and those players to leave? For me, it's very logical that we do that. But I guess ultimately we will have to wait and see. I'm going to be back at 8 o'clock. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. 8 o'clock show back tonight, live at 8 o'clock. Looking forward to that at 8 o'clock. Nice to do a video at this time to some breaking news that actually has some credibility and good conversation to it. I think it's a conversation point. And as I say, 95% of you think that United should be negotiating on this. Jimmy Jones says, I'll drive them back. He's a West Ham fan. They do well for you, Jimmy. I listen up, Jimmy. I tell you, Jimmy, they would. Just before I go, I've popped the link in the live chat. Make sure you watch my Premier League predictions. Ben Foster's done his Man United predictions. It's on the United stand. My general Premier League predictions and a very big prediction about Man United you don't want to miss is on That's Football. I've dropped the link in the live chat, or you can go straight there. It's only a 10-minute video. I think you will like it, and I'm standing by it. I had a few drinks when I did it. That's very evident, but I'm standing by what I said. Check it out on That's Football, or go through the live chat link, and I'll be back at 8 o'clock. Thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed that video. I'll speak to you all in a bit.